A very, very good afternoon, Friday the 19th of January 2024. My name is Raja Miah, and every now and then I put out what are known as emergency transmissions over the last 3-4 years or so. Every time I put out one of these emergency transmissions, it's usually to do with something very, very significant in the dealings of Oldham, and in particular Oldham Council, usually. Today is no different. I take no pleasure in sharing what I share with you. I feel compelled to do so, particularly after Maggie Oliver on Monday in front of the mayor, in front of the deputy mayor and police commissioner, so in front of Andy Burnham, in front of Kate Green, Burnham's deputy and police commissioner, and also in terms of the Chief Constable Watson, bravely and without any need made reference to Oldham and how the assurance review into Oldham was severely lacking. And to paraphrase, she as good as, in front of all of these people, she as good as said it was a cover-up. Now, what connects Oldham and Rochdale is clearly and hidden in plain sight. It's been hidden in plain sight. What connects Oldham and Rochdale, of course, is Shabir Ahmed, the ringleader of the Rochdale Grooming Gang, and one of his key accomplishers came from Oldham. And what I released in a dossier of evidence, which is what led to forcing Andy Burnham to launch his assurance review into Oldham, and has also taken out 3 successive Labour Party leaders of Oldham Council, is a dossier of evidence that exposed all of it. And what I did intentionally at the time, and continue to do so, is still drip feed information into the public domain, because what this does is prevent these people from just pretending that they can just move on. Because every time they open their mouths, every time they release something, I release something else. And what that shows is that they are not telling the truth. Now, my purpose is that I do not believe, my purpose for doing this is that I do not believe Andy Burnham has either the integrity nor is he impartial enough to conduct an inquiry into a town like mine, into towns like Rochdale, into cities like Manchester that are controlled by the Labour Party. Andy Burnham has aspirations of high office in the Labour Party, and I do not believe he has the integrity. And time after time after time, this has been proven to be true. So, what I will share with you now is to do with what connects Oldham and Rochdale specifically, and that's Shabir Ahmed. I'll put this together, I'll go through it with you, and you will see what I mean. What I am going to share with you now are the multiple occasions that both Oldham Council, Rochdale Council, and Greater Manchester Police failed to intervene when it came to the man known as Daddy. Now, Shabir Ahmed worked for Oldham Council between 1988 and 2006. He was employed as a welfare rights officer in the welfare rights unit of the council, and he was seconded to the Oldham Pakistani Community Centre. All of this was kept secret from you until I'd released it. In May 2012, he was found guilty of 2 rapes, aiding and abetting rape, sexual assault, and trafficking for the purposes of sexual exploitation, and sentenced to 19 years imprisonment. In June 2012, he was found guilty of a further 30 rape charges, 24, and was jailed for an additional 22 years. Shabir Daddy, I call him. Shabir Daddy Ahmed, the ringleader of the Rochdale Grooming Gang, lived in Oldham. Windsor Road, to be specific, a leafy area of Coppice, a desirable area of Coppice, not too far from Hume Grammar School, for those of you familiar with Coppice. As well as being a director of the local Citizens Advice Bureau, something that the report did not share, he was also a member of Oldham Labour Party. Now, we released into the public domain that he was a member of the Oldham Labour Party, and Burnham's team were forced to confirm that. He was a senior member of Oldham's Labour Party, is what my sources shared with me, in and out regularly of Michael Meach's office. As far as I'm concerned, You don't sit on the Citizens Advice Bureau as a director on the board of the Citizens Advice Bureau in Oldham without being a member of the town's establishment. Shabir Ahmed was a member of Oldham's establishment and a heavyweight figure in Oldham's Pakistani community. Though Andy Burnham's review into Ahmed was severely limited by the confinements of his team's terms of reference, remember, Andy Burnham's review into Oldham Council was the second or the third attempt Oldham Council attempted to fix an investigation. The previous attempt, the person they appointed ran away and refused to look at it. So he went running. It was a man called Sean Fielding was leader at the time, went running to his mate Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham had only recently given Sean Fielding's girlfriend a job in his team. So that's where Sean Fielding went. And not only did Andy Burnham agree to conduct this review, what he agreed to, unexplainable really, as a starting point, what he agreed to was that the terms of reference would be set by Oldham Council. Furthermore, the process through which this review was conducted, the review team themselves, Newsom and Ridgway, had to 100% rely on only being able to see evidence presented to them by Greater Manchester Police, by Oldham Council and so on. They also, as Burnham admitted on Monday, had a complete inability to compel witnesses to give evidence. So Burnham stood up on Monday and shouted and screamed about him needing more powers from the Home Office to conduct these reviews properly. He is a shameless man. Your mayor, our mayor, is a shameless man. 6 years it took him to stand up and admit to this. He knew right from the offset he did not have any of these powers to go where these investigations needed to go. And what he should have done from the outset was gone to the government and asked them to intervene with a public inquiry. A public inquiry would have made sure that there would be no limitations on the terms of reference, that there would be no gatekeepers to the evidence that the inquiry could see, and of course the inquiry team, a public inquiry team, could compel witnesses. Police officers, council staff, senior council staff couldn't just ignore letters. They'd have to turn up. They'd have to give evidence. Burnham knew this, and Burnham still to this day refuses to support a public inquiry. Now what I'm going to go through are the 9 occasions that I know of so far where Shabir Ahmed could have been, should have been apprehended and a proper investigation take place by the council or by the police. And on each occasion, something happened. Now, I'm not going to say the word cover up. I'm not going to say the word he was protected. I'm just going to go through all of the evidence we forced out of Andy Burnham's review team, and also evidence that I know of that I did not share with Andy Burnham's review team. And if I'm blowing my nose or coughing a bit, I am home with COVID. So some people say it doesn't exist. It might not exist, but it feels like a heavy cold to me at the moment. So if I'm sniffling, that's why I'm sniffling. Of course, if you find value in these transmissions, at the very least, like and share the work and maybe subscribe to the channel. And if you have pockets deep enough, there's a link to buying me a coffee. My work is entirely community funded and has been for the last 5 years. And nothing that has taken place in Oldham in terms of positive change and holding these people to account would have took place if I had not risked my neck. Okay, let's carry on. The first occasion, and the dates are always significant. Those of you who follow my work will know how systematic and methodical I am. Greater Manchester Police was notified of a serious allegation of child sexual abuse perpetrated by Shabir Ahmed as early as 2005. 2005, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the timelines, is 2, possibly 3 years before the Rochdale Grooming Gang scandal charges started, which I think was 2008 in the 2 takeaways in Hayward. So 3 years before anything that transpired in Rochdale that Shabir Ahmed was charged and convicted for, or his members of his gang, Greater Manchester Police were notified of a serious allegation of child sexual abuse perpetrated by Shabir Ahmed. Whilst the victim was an adult when she was seen by the police, the force was made aware that Shabir Ahmed also potentially had contact with a young child who lived outside Oldham. So what that means is that the victim made reference to allegations whilst they were a child, and also raised alarm bells, serious alarm bells, of a young child who lived outside of Oldham that Ahmed had contact with. It is unknown if the police arrested or even interviewed him under caution. That's right, it is unknown if the police arrested him or even interviewed him under caution. What is known, though, is that Greater Manchester Police didn't even bother submitting a crime report, something that was against the national crime recording standards in place at the time. That's right, Greater Manchester Police didn't even bother submitting a crime report. A young woman goes to the police with a serious allegation of child sexual abuse and also raises alarm bells of a young child outside of the town that Ahmed has access to, concern, and the police didn't even submit a crime report. It's unknown, and I don't know why the experts Newsom and Ridgway, renowned I heard he was called this week, why they fail to disclose whether Greater Manchester Police even bothered to interview him, let alone arrest him. And that's as far back as 2005. Furthermore, Greater Manchester Police also failed to inform the local authority responsible for the child. Nor did they notify Oldham Council, which was then Ahmed's employer, as a result of the disclosure that he potentially presented a serious risk to children. So the police knew this. Not only did they not report the crime, apparently, and I use the word apparently, they didn't tell the council where Shabir Ahmed worked. As there had been a disclosure that Ahmed potentially presented a serious risk to children, a full assessment should have been undertaken of the risks to the identified child and to other children Ahmed might have contact with. That's procedure. An assessment should have taken place of the risk to the identified child and to any other children Ahmed might have contact with. A referral to the responsible local authority should have been made. That's the other local authority as well. You know, with the child outside of Oldham? That wasn't done. Followed by a strategy discussion and what's known as a Section 47 investigation. None of this happened. No one can explain why none of this happened. Do you see what a public inquiry would do? It was known by the police that Ahmed was a council employee, and insufficient inquiries were made into whether his role gave him access to vulnerable adults and children. As a welfare rights officer, he would potentially have had contact with a range of vulnerable adults and their children. This matter should therefore have been referred to Oldham Council as his employer. If this had happened, it may have potentially avoided the tragic abuse of other children. Bullshit. If this had happened, it would have avoided the tragic abuse of other children. 2005. Now, I released at the time that Ahmed worked with access to vulnerable children, and he was based out of the Pakistani Community Centre. 18 years he worked for the council. The sources who bring me this information, high-ranking officials in the council at the time, senior concerned parents involved in the Labour Party. That's where I get my information from. That's why they've failed to have me convicted of anything. That's why every attempt to sue me and silence me has failed. It's difficult when you tell the truth, isn't it? My information is Shabir Ahmed did not just operate out of the Pakistani Community Centre. My information, he operated from a range of council venues, including, and I have no desire to alarm any of you, never have, and I have no joy in sharing this with you. My information from the outset is Shabir Ahmed also operated from inside children's centres. That's right. My information is Shabir Ahmed also operated from inside children's centres. Let that sink in for a moment. This is where it gets interesting. Shabir Ahmed is arrested. No, I'm sorry, not arrested. It's brought to the police's attention in 2005. The police that he's committed some serious child sex offences. A victim's gone forward. The police don't report the crime. The council claim they don't know anything about it. Yet this man, after 18 years working for the council, like that, is no longer working for the council. He had been employed by Oldham Council since 1998. Ahmed then leaves 1988, sorry. Yes, 1988. My apologies. He had been employed by Oldham Council since 1988. He then, within months of this police not investigation, leaves his well-paid position in the council in 2006. Oldham Council were never asked by Newsom or Ridgway, and if they did ask, they never shared with us. Remember, renowned experts, as to whether he left voluntarily after 18 years of service, just months after the allegations of CSE against him were first made. Whether someone had a quiet word, whether it was all hushed over. Surely a renowned team of investigators would tell us why Shabir Ahmed left his job in the council just months after a victim went forward to the police. Again, a public inquiry of genuine experts would uncover what went on there. So that's occasion 1, 2005. Shabir Ahmed was subsequently arrested for sexual assault on a child in February 2008. He was also arrested on suspicion of abducting 2 other children in July 2008. No crime was recorded by Greater Manchester Police and no further action was taken. That's right. No crime was recorded by Greater Manchester Police and no further action was taken. The failure to record a crime was once again a further breach of the national crime recording standards in place at the time. I don't set these standards. These are set by the police themselves. The failure to record a crime was a further breach of the national crime recording standards in place at the time. Likewise, once again, there is no evidence that Greater Manchester Police notified Oldham Council of these allegations so that it could undertake an assessment of the risks Ahmed might potentially present to any children he may have had contact with. He's already left Oldham Council, 2008. It is unknown where exactly Ahmed was working in February 2008. Unconfirmed sources, so these are my people who've come to me, and I trust them. But Ridgway and Newsom didn't go and find out where he was working in 2008. Why? Unconfirmed sources, my own sources have confirmed to me, following leaving Oldham Council, he was employed by a community organisation with subsequent links to politicians whose directors were later prosecuted for various offences. I've shared this before. My information is Shabir Ahmed went to work for an organisation with direct links to the Labour Party. And he went to work for an organisation where public assets were sold at knockdown prices too. Why did Ridgway and Newsom not look into that? Whilst much of the public information is that he used his role as a welfare officer to meet with potential, victims' children. Yeah, his role as a welfare officer gave him access to children. My information is that his role as a welfare officer and the subsequent roles he had gave him something else. It gave him access to clients. People would come to him and book a slot. Nothing on this by Newsom or Ridgway. Because, and this bit I don't really blame him, it's outside of the terms of reference. When they went to investigate this, I was a liar. Every allegation I made in that report has been proven to be true. From the shisha bars, to the taxi drivers, to Shabir Ahmed, all of it proven to be true. So that's a second time. July 28 and February 28. Again, this is just before the Rochdale, or just at the time of the beginning of the takeaway scandal in Rochdale, the betrayed girls and the free girls and all of that. So 2 opportunities before then. Both times, the police did not record it as crimes. 3 opportunities, actually, because he was arrested for sexual assault on a child in February 2008, and he also was arrested of suspicion of abducting 2 other children in July 28. So by July 2008, 3 times he's been brought to the attention of the police. 2 times he's been arrested. On the first time, because Newsom and Ridgway omit that information, I can only assume that he was not arrested and he was not interviewed in 2005. And the council apparently did not know. The third occasion. Even though Shabir Ahmed had worked for Oldham Council for 18 years, Oldham Council were not involved in, inverted commas, strategy discussions held between Greater Manchester Police and Rochdale Council in 2008 about Ahmed. So by 2008, Rochdale Council, who are concerned about Ahmed, and Greater Manchester Police, who are concerned about what Ahmed is doing, Daddy's doing in Rochdale, they're not arresting him, they're not throwing him in prison, they're not doing any of that. They're holding strategy discussions with the council. Lord only knows what those strategy discussions are. But his 18-year employer in the town he actually lives in were not invited to these strategy discussions. There is also no evidence that the strategy discussions that they were having, that's GMP and Rochdale Council, considered the safeguarding of any child Ahmed may still have contact with. Occasion 4. Even after Ahmed was charged with sexual assault at the end of September 28, so by the time he's first charged, it's September 28, remember it was 2005, so he's took over 3 years to charge him. No action was taken by Oldham Council to undertake a safeguarding assessment or liaise with the police force. The review team, Ridgway and Newsom, failed to clarify if Greater Manchester Police informed Oldham Council that they had charged Ahmed, even though they knew he had been employed by the council. So that bit is omitted. Did Greater Manchester Police inform Oldham Council? But it doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because the 5th occasion is at the end of September 28. Probation services did notify Oldham Council. So at the end of September 28, the probation service notified Oldham Council that Ahmed had been charged with sexual assault. Do you know what Oldham Council did? No action was taken by Oldham Council to undertake a safeguarding assessment of Ahmed following this information or to liaise with colleagues in Greater Manchester Police. Here, lads, you know that guy who worked in your welfare office for 18 years? Had access to children? We just charged him for sexual offences. Thought you might want to know about it. So he's charged in September 28, 2008. The report, Burnham's team of investigators miss out 2 years. everything seems to go cold between September 2008 and December 2010. Remember, this is the time when Ahmed was in Haywood. Yeah, him and his mates doing what they were doing. Everything seems to go cold between September 2008 and December 2010. We do not even know if or when Ahmed faced trial for what he was charged with in 2008, or whether he was convicted of anything. Well, he wasn't convicted of anything, because if he was, we'd have known. So what happened to what he was charged with in 2008? The next we hear about Ahmed is in December 2010. An allegations management strategy meeting. God, they like their meetings, don't they? An allegations management strategy meeting was held in Rochdale in December 2010. Oldham Council was not invited to this meeting, even though Shabir Ahmed lived in Oldham, and was not notified of the meeting until January 2011. So, okay. So a meeting took place in December 2010, and the council were told about it in January 2011. A month. In the scheme of things of what's gone on, a month. Once notified in January 2011, this is the sixth occasion now, no action was taken by Oldham Council to assess the risk that Ahmed may present to any children he may have had contact with during his 18-year employment with them. That's right. An allegations management strategy meeting between Rochdale Council and the police took place, and God knows whoever else, took place in December 2010. Oldham Council were told about it in January 2011. And once they knew about it, what they did was what they did on each previous occasion. Bugger all. On the 22nd of March 2011, Ahmed was charged with the rape of the child first brought to the attention of Greater Manchester Police 6 years earlier in 2005. He was remanded in custody. Right? That victim that went back to him, that went, in 2005, went to him crying that the police did not record a crime against him and cannot explain why. Won't even say whether they interviewed him. He then leaves Oldham Council's employment a few months afterwards. Nothing to see here. Six years later, in March 2011, he's charged with the rape of that first child and remanded in custody. He was not remanded, first of all, in custody for what he did in Rochdale. He was remanded in custody for what he did in 2005 in Oldham. On April the 1st, on the 1st of April, Oldham Council, this is 2011, on the 1st of April 2011, Oldham Council received another notification from the probation service in respect of the offences committed against this child. Given the profound child sexual abuse, this should have been a further opportunity to initiate a full assessment of Ahmed's circumstances and do all the statutory things they were meant to do. Do you know what the council did? Following the probation service once again contacting them? Nothing. There is no evidence of anything having occurred. All the way up to March 2011, it appears Ahmed had been a free man, though infamous for his role in the Rochdale Grooming Gang. When he was finally remanded in custody, it was for rape of a child 6 years earlier in 2005. You've had 7 occasions so far. I'll give you occasion number 8. So he's now charged. March 11, the same month, March 11. Greater Manchester Police requested from Oldham Council copies of the files in respect of Ahmed and his family. So the probation services have gone to him. They've done nothing. The police then go to him. Greater Manchester Police go to him. A request from Oldham Council files in respect of Ahmed and his family. The email informed Oldham Council of the second child, first identified in 2005 and living outside the Oldham area, with whom Ahmed may have had close contact. This significant information, shared by the police 6 years later from when they first received it, should have prompted Oldham Council to commence a multi-agency strategy discussion and an assessment of the risks presented to any other children and young people Shabir Ahmed had previously had close contact with. You guessed it. Oldham Council has been unable to locate any record to explain why this never occurred. That's their wording. My wording is, it didn't occur because they didn't do it. The 8th occasion now, were either between Oldham Council or Greater Manchester Police or a combination of both. Ahmed is, well, is he protected? Is that the right word? Or a cock-up? What is it? And if there was any doubt, I want to bring to your attention the 9th occasion. If you're finding value in this, please like, please share. I operate from behind a paywall these days, so these free-to-air transmissions are very rare. And if you're new to me, please at the very least subscribe to the channel. I've shared with you so far 8 occasions of catastrophic failings regarding the case of Shabir Daddy Ahmed, going back to 2005, and consistently involving Oldham Council. I'll share with you now the 9th occasion. And this one people should go to prison for. In 2012, another young woman came forward. Now, she might be a young woman who come forward, but she came forward in reference to a time when she was a child. Oh, yes, I forget, Tony. Super chats. You can do super chats on my channel. Thank you. I get £2.50 of that back or something. So if you're finding value, you can press that, please. In 2012, another young woman came forward and disclosed that she had been abused by Ahmed. Oldham Council were notified of these allegations by Greater Manchester Police. However, Children's Social Care, that's Oldham Council's Children's Social Care, inexplicably, no reason given, no reason understandable. Even Ridgway Newsom cannot use any other word but inexplicably. Oldham Council's Children's Social Care, and of course there's a person here. There's a director here. There's a councillor in charge of children's services here. No names. Maggie Oliver made reference to it, but they're just names of departments. No, these were individuals making these decisions. So a young woman comes forward in 2012 and discloses that she has been abused by Ahmed. Oldham Council were notified of these allegations by Greater Manchester Police. And what does Oldham Council's Children's Social Care leaders do? They inexplicably closed the case down within a few days without taking any assessment. They closed it down within a few days without undertaking any assessment. Now, excuse me, failing, cock up. This now, for me, moves into a terrain where it's, well, they say inexplicably. I say something else. I say cover up. Oldham Council claim they have been unable to locate anything further on this child. There is no evidence of any strategy discussion or assessment of either her allegations or her vulnerability. They just closed it down. By 2012, it was well known what Ahmed was. He was charged, he was waiting trial. Yeah, there's case file after case file, fancy meeting after fancy meeting. And a child comes forward, or a young woman comes forward who discloses that while she was a child, she was abused by Ahmed, and it involves children's social care. Inexplicably closed it down. And to make it worse, the alleged offence on this child had occurred when Ahmed was employed as a welfare rights officer by the council. Ridgway and Newsom claim it's unknown whether the victim was a victim in a professional capacity or in a family capacity. If the strategy meeting had been held, as it was supposed to, it would have presented yet another opportunity to trigger a referral to the local authorities' designated officer, that's the LADO, to undertake a detailed review of Ahmed's conduct during his employment. 9 occasions, and by 2012, there are 2 leaders here. For the first phase, it was Howard Sykes, who was the leader of the council, now official leader of the opposition. And in 2012, when this catastrophic decision was taken, this inexplicable decision to close down an investigation within a few days without taking any assessment, the leader of Oldham Council was, of course, Jim McMahon. The case of this young victim coming forward in 2012, who alleges abuse against, was abused by Shabir Ahmed, was also discontinued by Greater Manchester Police, well, there's a surprise, on the basis that there was no realistic prospect of a conviction. This was apparently a police decision, and the case was never discussed with the Crown Prosecution Service. Neither Greater Manchester Police nor Oldham Council are able to provide Andy Burnham's review team with any assurance that the child's allegations and vulnerability were appropriately dealt with. So this assurance review has so far provided zero assurance. Zero assurance. 9 instances proven. All 9 are coincidence to you? In May 2012, Shabir Ahmed was found guilty of 2 rapes, aiding and abetting rape, sexual assault and trafficking for the purposes of sexual exploitation, and sentenced to 19 years imprisonment. In June 2012, he was found guilty of a further 30 rape charges and was jailed for an additional 22 years. The review team, so this is Andy Burnham's own review team, concluded that there were serious multiple failures by both Greater Manchester Police and Oldham Council to follow the procedures in place to investigate the threats Shabir Ahmed presented to children. If these procedures had been followed, his offending behaviour could have been addressed at an earlier stage, and potentially the abuse of his subsequent victims may have been prevented. It would have been prevented. I'm very clear, it would have been prevented. Of course, without a public inquiry, or at the very least, a judge-led inquiry commissioned in partnership by Oldham and Rochdale councils, because this will not go away. It is not known whether these repeated failures by both GMP, Oldham Council and indeed Rochdale Council, whose chief executive crocodile teared and apologised on Monday, is whether it was a cover-up or a cock-up. I think you all know what it is. I think I know what it was. What is known is that Shabir Ahmed I'm going to be careful here. I need to be careful here. What is known is that Shabir Ahmed's network included leading politicians within Oldham's Pakistani and Bangladeshi community. He was a taxi driver prior, alongside other councillors, at least one other prominent councillor, and he had also links in the Bangladeshi community. Not one of Oldham's Pakistani or Bangladeshi councillors, past or present, was interviewed by the review team, nor has a single one come forward to disclose the nature of their relationship with Daddy. The only person who's issued a statement is Councillor Abdul Jabbar, and that's after a public question submitted to a full council meeting regarding a reference he was potentially had given to Shabir Ahmed. Now, the reference, when he was a mayor, Abdul Jabbar was the mayor at 2005. So there's no way Abdul Jabbar could have given a reference in any way to do with any court proceedings, and Abdul Jabbar is categorically clear, and I have no reason to disbelieve him, that he did not provide a reference to aid Ahmed during sentencing. Where it gets more challenging, perhaps, is Councillor Jabbar does not expand on whether he knew Shabir Ahmed or whether he'd given him a reference previously for anything. But at least Councillor Jabbar has issued a statement condemning Ahmed. At least Councillor Jabbar has issued a statement condemning Ahmed. He is the only councillor to have done so. When I first disclosed Ahmed's real role in the council, it was from information provided to me from a senior source within the Labour Party. Everything shared with me has been so far proven to be accurate, including Ahmed's membership of the Labour Party and that he had access to children whilst employed by Oldham Council. My source is clear in their allegation. Daddy was well known to individuals in powerful positions, and that some of those had a relationship with him remain involved in Oldham to this day. So that some of those who had a relationship with Shabir Daddy Ahmed remain involved in the politics of Oldham to this day. Let that sink in the context of everything that's happened. The 9 occasions. Not only did they know Daddy, they knew what he was involved in, and at the very least looked the other way. That is what I'm being told. A public inquiry is what is needed. Who knew what? To this day, people in Oldham remain fearful. As the Pakistani community, to this day, people in Oldham remain fearful of what would happen to them should they speak out against Daddy and his network. That is my sources in the Pakistani community. To this day, people in the Pakistani community feel fearful should they speak out against Daddy and his network. Hidden in all of this, Shabir Ahmed's wife committed suicide in the boating lake in Alexander Park. Those of you who know the boating lake in Alexander Park know that in the middle of it, if you've ever fallen in like I have when I was a child, you can flap around a bit and then you can stand up. It's not that deep. She committed, she drowned. And I won't talk about his 2 children because it's not fair. In response to these damning failings, so this report gets published. Damning failings, would that be right? In responding to these damning failings, neither of the town's MPs, Debbie Abrams or Jim McMahon, chose to share any alarm towards the clear failings of Oldham Council and Greater Manchester Police. Perhaps Jim McMahon wanted to deflect our attention away from how he had been an Oldham councillor since 2003, leader of the Labour group since I think 2008, 7-8, and also leader of the council since 2011, before he became the town's MP. Instead of supporting the clear need for a public inquiry, both McMahon and Abrahams launched an immediate response demonising campaigners as racists and far-right activists. Within months of the release of the findings of the review, the council chief executive, Carolyn Wilkins, who was deputy at the, in 2007, 2008, before progressing deputy to Charlie Parker, I think, before progressing to be chief executive of the council, within months of the release of the findings of the review, Carolyn Wilkins and her executive team of leaders had all left the council, moved on. She'd moved on without another job, and others had moved on anyway. There is no evidence that these incidents are in any way linked. Maybe Carolyn Wilkins decided she just wanted to go and sunbathe somewhere. I don't know. Remember, those of you who watch Monday's press release, how repeatedly the Rochdale leader was to say, and these people are no longer here. I can guarantee you they're no longer here. Well, who were these people and where have they gone? Yeah, the obvious questions. What we do know is the council chief executive and her entire leadership team left the council not long after the release of these findings. Repeated attempts by opposition party politicians and representatives of survivor groups to call in the government to conduct a public inquiry have been blocked by councillors from the same Labour Party that Shabir Ahmed was a member of. On Monday, the 15th of January 2024, over 6 years since Daddy was made famous by the BBC documentary The Three Girls, further failings of what took place in Rochdale and the subsequent cover-up was revealed in Part 3 of Andy Burnham's review. Speaking at the press conference, and despite the report being Rochdale-focused, Maggie Oliver specifically raised issues in Oldham. She condemned the Oldham review and clearly stated that the investigative team of Newsom and Ridgway had been prevented from getting to the truth, to the extent that even survivors had been blocked from giving testimony. I will name him. Come and sue me, Oldham Council, if you want. The man-specific Director of Children's Services, Gerard Jones. He earns the best part of £150,000 as no one has said or done anything to him. The Conservatives, Lewis Quigg and his team, have submitted a question to the council about proceedings against those involved in the cover-up of preventing information, and the council leader, Arooj Shah, the new chief executive, Harry Caffrell, no one has responded. From the outset, I have remained clear in my position that the review into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of working-class white girls in my hometown is actually a cover-up of a cover-up. That's right, Andy Burnham's review is a cover-up of a cover-up. And at best, they did not have, if I want to be a bit more compassionate, they did not have the remit, the power to go to the right places to ask the right questions. I'm very clear. Only a public inquiry will get to the truth of just what really happened in Oldham. The most infamous ringleader of the grooming gangs worked for Oldham Council. Between them, Greater Manchester Police and Oldham Council had 9 occasions to intervene, and they failed on each occasion. The last of which was during the tenure of Jim McMahon as leader of Oldham Council, when the council closed down an investigation into Shabir Ahmed within days. And neither Newsom or Ridgway can explain under what circumstances that could ever have taken place. Thank you very, very much for joining me. My name is Raja Miah. If you don't see me this evening, I'm hoping I can come back this evening with part 2. Part 2 is going to be explosive. It's a local. It's brings it bang up to date. And my Muslim brethren, you should join me for part 2. I got a phone call earlier as to why I'm putting a transmission out during Friday afternoon prayers. It's because I'm at home with COVID, guys, but you keep trying and distracting things from what really matters. And what really matters is wanting to purge this town of everyone involved in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children, so they can no longer continue to do what they have done and got away with. A very, very good afternoon.